You are now listening to the Final Whistle Sports Podcast. Here is your host, Blaine Spencer.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome in to another edition of the Final Whistle Sports Podcast. I have my good friend Marcus from G.O.A.T with Marcus. He is here to absolutely make my day an absolute humiliation because we are talking the NFC East, and this is going to wrap up the NFC conference of the divisional breakdowns. We'll be looking at the Cowboys, Giants, my Washington Commanders. I have my Washington Redskins jersey on, but that's the only reason Marcus is on. Just bash my.
No, more specifically, tell them whose it is. Tell them whose jersey you're wearing. Tell them whose jersey you're wearing.
All right, so let's do this background. We're also going to talk about the Giants, but I'm going to stand up here. So we had a walk. I am backing up. I'm recording from home this week because I've got the vid, so I've had a rough week. This thing is a Donovan McNabb jersey. It's a large. It's a dress on me. It is absolutely abysmal. Yes, it is a Donovan McNabb jersey. He played quite a whopping 6 games for us, but I thought he was the answer in his washed-up career after the Philadelphia Eagles. And look at that. And if you remember that season, my following Washington followers, if you're a Commander fan, a football team fan, still call it the Redskins, we had Rex Grossman beat out Donovan McNabb. So there's your answer right there. It'll be, I'm already getting emotional. This is going to be a really bad episode for me. But, and Marcus is already laughing. He's enjoying himself. Marcus, how are we?
It's my pick-me-up. It's my daily pick-me-up, man. I'm looking forward to every second of this. Every second of it's top-notch.
All right. So, luckily, how we do this episode is that we start off from top to bottom. So, the Commanders will have to wait for a little bit. So, but even though Marcus will try and figure out ways to incorporate them throughout the show. Let's talk first. The least favorite team that I will ever like in football, that is the Dallas Cowboys. I can't believe I just said their name out loud in a full sentence. So we'll just leave it there. Dallas, they finished top of the division. And the one thing that kind of made it happy was that they screwed it up in only the way the Dallas Cowboys could screw up last year with their clock management issues, with the so lovely don't hand the ball off to the official and potentially get another playoff. The clock runs out. They use San Francisco in the wild card round. Yeah. New look Cowboys on the offensive side of the ball. They've lost Amari Cooper to Cleveland, as well as Cedric Wilson. He has moved on in free agency. Going to be really intriguing to see how CeeDee Lamb picks up the rest of the load. And also the impact of Ezekiel Elliott potentially now being the second string running back behind Tony Pollard. There's been a bunch of rumors that Tony Pollard fits the offense better, which I think is completely true. Marcus, what are the expectations for the Cowboys? Because the NFC East never has a repeat division winner. Are the Cowboys going to be the first in a while?
No, but it's not because the Cowboys are a bad team. It's just because I think the Eagles did enough to get better. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys won the division. I mean, the Giants aren't going to win the division, and Washington's definitely not going to win the division. So it's between Dallas and Philly. I mean, that's for sure. So it's possible that Dallas still wins the division this season because they don't have a bad football team. They just lost 2 pieces, one more important than the other. Expectations for Cowboys would be to make the playoffs. As a winner of the division or not, to make the playoffs and win a playoff game, I would think. As long as they don't match up against the Bucs, the Packers, or the Rams, they should win a playoff game this season.
But the issue is that's like a pretty high chance that they're going to get one of those 3 teams, other than if they finish 4 or 5.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Let's pull up Marcus's trusty record predictions so far, which aren't
already making him just feel more confident than he actually is about himself. Marcus,
they're not officially done, but they're close to being done. So if my predictions ring true, then the Cowboys would be playing the Eagles in the playoffs. They would go to Philly to play the Eagles. That is, I think.
So you have them finishing 5th.
I do. I have them finishing 5th, and I have the Eagles finishing 4th. Yeah, which means they get a trip to Philly, which I think would be nice for Dallas for a couple reasons. Number one, because Dallas finishes the season in Washington. So after they finish spanking on the Commanders, they'll just take that bus trip right up to Philly and get ready for the Eagles. That's a winnable game for them. They could also, depending on how the records, kind of shake out, because anything can happen, right? Let's say let's say they do win the division, right? If they win the division, they could match up with Philly, or they could see the Saints, or they could see the Vikings. Like, really, anything can happen there. I think as long as the Cowboys can finish 4th or 5th in the NFC, they will avoid the Packers, Bucks, and Rams at least come opening weekend of the playoffs, and they can win that game. And I think that's a win for the Cowboys. The other expectation that I have is that this is Mike McCarthy's last season. If it's not, that's a massive disappointment.
You think Sean Payton's coming in next year?
I think it should be Sean Payton, but I don't care if it's Sean Payton. I don't care if it's Kellen Moore, Dan Quinn, Eric Bieniemy, Greg Roman, me, you, homeless man on the street. It cannot be Mike McCarthy, because the Cowboys aren't going to compete for a Super Bowl with Mike McCarthy as the head coach. Because this is.
And what do you have as Mike McCarthy's biggest issues? Everything, or just clock management?
Mike McCarthy has two jobs: to discipline the team and manage the clock. This is the most penalized team in football last season. Strike one. He failed to manage the clock last season. Strike two. And the ice on the cake, why did they lose in the playoffs? Because he failed to manage the clock. It's not even just the final 13 seconds, which is kind of like the big unraveling. It is going into those final 13 seconds, they had no timeouts. Why? Because Mike McCarthy mismanaged the use of his previous 3 timeouts in the third and early in the fourth quarter. That's why they had no timeouts going into that drive. So, yeah, Mike McCarthy should be gone. Because if your head coach's job is to manage the clock and make sure your team is disciplined, and he can't do that, so your team is the most disciplined team in football, and the reason why you get bounced out of the playoffs is because of failure to manage the clock, that's a fireable offense. Like, if I'm a cashier, my job is to handle the money. If I'm not handling the money correctly, I should be fired. So right. Mike McCarthy should be thanking his lucky stars that Jerry Jones didn't give him a pink slip the second he walked into the locker room after the game last season, because he deserved one. And that's also Jerry Jones' problem, is he's loyal to people who don't deserve loyalty. But, whatever.
Well, you could see that because he kept Jason Garrett about 10 years too long.
Yeah, of course.
Well, the one thing that I see in Dallas, and I agree, I don't think Dallas will win the division again this year. I think just because of the formality that is the NFC East is what I call it, because arguably we are the worst division of football. And you can't really argue it, especially as a Commanders fan, and then you also have the Giants in the league. So, and the one year we did win the division, we were under 500. So let's leave it at that.
Oh, good.
I need to see more from Dak Prescott now. This is Dak's. I think everyone thinks that last year or the year before that, it's a prove-it year. I think every year has become a prove-it year for Dak, because now he's lost a couple weapons. You don't know what you're going to get from Michael Gallup coming back from significant injury. You have CeeDee Lamb. You do have Dalton Schultz. He's a solid tight end. He's not a top-tier tight end, but he's a solid tight end. I think the utilization of Tony Pollard in this offense and how creative is Kellen Moore going to be, because he had lulls of brilliance and then lulls of absolute head scratching when you have someone who's called the next prodigy in offensive play calling. And we really need to figure that out. He turned down that Boise State job to go back to his alma mater and be the head coach, to stay with the Cowboys last year. So where is the growth going to be in this offense? And usually the strength of the team was their offensive line. That is no longer their biggest strength. And then you also have to factor in on the defensive side of the ball. They were the most opportunistic team in football with leading in interceptions. And Trayvon Diggs was an absolute stud.
Trayvon Diggs isn't good, so.
Well, he was a ball magnet, but then he gets beat about.
He also gave up the most yards of any corner last season. So, right. I mean, so I guess
pick your poison. Being in the gang of getting the most targets, right? You're gonna.
I mean, well, I don't know if he led the league in targets last season.
He's a solid corner.
I think he's highly overrated as a corner.
So where would you rank him And would you put him in the top 10 corners?
No.
No, not even close.
Would not put him in the top 10. I'm not going to say it's not close. I just wouldn't. I think off the top of my head, I can name 10 corners better than Trayvon Diggs. Well, I don't really have the list pulled up for you, so let me pull it up.
Cowboys, you pull up your list of corners.
So, I mean, I could just give you a couple. Like for starters, let me just look up all the starting cornerbacks in the NFL.
Let's see, Jalen Ramsey.
Nope, without a doubt.
Um,
Jair Alexander is better than Trayvon Diggs.
Right.
Stephon Gilmore is better than Trayvon Diggs, I think, anyway.
Right.
I would take, I'd take Jalen Ramsey ahead of him. I'd take Jair Alexander ahead of him. I would take
Jair Alexander like 3 times already. So
I know I'm trying to stop it. I'm trying to get my thoughts together. I'm sorry. Okay, this is official. Now we're going. You want me to rank my top 10? Okay, so I got Jalen Ramsey in no specific order. I got Jalen Ramsey in there. AJ Terrell is a top 10 cornerback in my estimation. I would take Marshawn Lattimore ahead of Trayvon Diggs. I'd take Jair ahead of Trayvon Diggs. I'd take Xavier Howard ahead of Trayvon Diggs. I'd take J.C. Jackson for sure ahead of Trayvon Diggs. I'd take Marlon Humphrey ahead of Trayvon Diggs. I would also take Denzel Ward ahead of Trayvon Diggs and Trey White. I don't know if I said him already, but I'd take Trey White. I don't think Kenny Moore gets a lot of love. I'd take Kenny Moore ahead of Trayvon Diggs. That's 10 right there. Darius Slay, who's in his own division, is better than Trayvon Diggs. Carlton Davis is better than Trayvon Diggs. There's an argument to be made that Pat Surtain II is better than Trayvon Diggs, even though he did miss a couple games last season due to injury. Then you have couple guys.
Middle of the pack already. That's already 13 guys you would put ahead of him.
Yeah. And I think there's an argument to be, I think he is in the bracket with Chibote Awuzie, Jamel Dean, James Bradbury, Byron Jones, Adoree Jackson, guys like that, where it's really just a preference thing. The only guy on that list I'd for sure take ahead of Trayvon Diggs is James Bradbury, which would put Trayvon Diggs at 15. And I think I'm being a little bit nice with that.
And you think 15 is nice?
I think at his best, Trayvon Diggs is 15.
Do you think he'd be exposed this year and show that last year was a fluke because of his wide receiver ball skills, which is why he had the interceptions?
Let's pull up Trayvon Diggs' stats last season, and I'll explain to you why I think Trayvon Diggs' stats is overrated. Trayvon Diggs, I get it, led the league in picks, and you could attribute that to volume of targets. I think you could. I'm not going to say that that's an unfair thing to do. Trayvon Diggs, if we just pull up his game log, right, from last season, we'll start in week 1 against Tampa Bay. He didn't do that well. Well, he also played like 1 snap in that game, so maybe that doesn't count. In the game against the Chargers, he didn't play all that well. He didn't play that great in the game against Philly. Like, there's just a lot of instances where you put a top-notch receiver against Trayvon Diggs, he's going to get dusted. Trayvon Diggs is getting dusted by CeeDee Lamb in training camp right now as we speak. It's just not pretty.
I have been seeing that.
It's just not pretty.
He bites on every double move.
It's not pretty. I think Trayvon Diggs, I'll be honest with you, I think Trayvon Diggs benefited from a lot of bad throws into double coverage last season. Of course, he had a couple of one-on-one picks, but I think Trayvon Diggs is better when there is a safety or another corner bracketed on top of him to assist him with one-on-one. Trayvon Diggs is not striking fear in anyone's heart. Like, as
Cowboys don't play man with him.
Exactly, and that's why I'm saying that's why Trayvon Diggs.
So you think he's a very good scheme fit zone corner?
Sure. If this is a man-to-man defense, Trayvon Diggs I don't think would be that successful, and I don't think Trayvon Diggs would have had the success he had last season if that was the case.
I think that's a valid argument. I think you could see that. I think he's still also learning the position from being.
That's fine. And look, that last year was his second year, so I mean, it's not like I think he's a scrub. It's not like I don't think he has room for improvement. But he's not on my list of guys that I would pick to like one like because it's a crazy scenario, but I think these scenarios matter. Like, we're talking about one play. I need one stop defensively. Who's going to be my corner? It's not going to be Trayvon Diggs. That's for sure. I wouldn't even think about Trayvon Diggs being the first guy that pops up in my mind. And that matters. Like he's a solid zone corner, but would I trust him in the slot? No. Would I trust him man to man? No. Do I trust him one-on-one in press coverage against some of the best receivers in football? No. I don't know how many. I don't even know how many. And this could sound crazy, but I don't know how many matchups he'd be favoring if he was matched up against a number 2 receiver on the football team. And that just depends on who that number 2 guy is. Like, really? Do I trust Trayvon Diggs against Mike Williams? No. I don't think that Trayvon Wiggs. I don't think Chris Godwin. I don't think he could handle Allen Robinson. I don't think he would do good against Hunter Renfrow. Like I don't think he'd do good against Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy, whoever the number 2 would be out there. Maybe he holds his own against Marquez Valdez-Scantling on a as long as he can keep in front of him. But if we're talking about Marquez Valdez-Scantling going deep and Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball, I don't really like his chances because he didn't do that good against Marquez. Like I just don't like his chances. So there are not many bona fide wide receivers. No, there's no bona fide like this is a wide receiver 1 guy that I would like my matchup against Trayvon Diggs. I don't. And there's a healthy handful of wide receiver 2s where I look at and I say, yikes. Right. But it works because it's a zone scheme, and that's why they have it that way. So you can kind of roam around and be that zone hawk, so to speak. But man to man, no, I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. And that's his downside.
Is that you can't that you have?
Yeah, because if you look at like Jair and Jalen and Trey White and J.C. Jackson, those guys can play man or they can play zone. They can do it. They can do both of them very well. And they'll shut you down.
All match up in the slot. They're not afraid.
And you can, and it doesn't matter who you put on them. Like, I mean, no one has a perfect game, right? Like we saw even Jalen Ramsey get, toasted a couple of times by Devontae Adams, but like Devontae Adams is also the best wide receiver in football. So like,
and Mike Evans.
Yeah, like and you can chalk that up to a size disadvantage for Jalen Ramsey's part because Mike Evans is so big. But like consistently speaking, I like when D-Hop was the guy in football, Jalen Ramsey had his way. For the most part, it was 50-50, but Jalen Ramsey had good games. There aren't many instances where
the only reason that the AFC South was staying relevant.
That is true. That's the only reason why. Jalen Ramsey also, for a stretch of time, didn't allow 100-yard receiving yards until that he had one game against DeAndre Hopkins, and DeAndre Hopkins toasted him for like 120 or something like that. And Jalen Ramsey said that in an interview recently. And that was the worst game.
One ridiculous catch in that, like 2 ridiculous catches.
Yeah. So like, and I get it. Comparing Jalen Ramsey to Trayvon Diggs, wow, like obviously, like I get that, and I'm sure that's what a lot of people are going to think and saying, look, I've already gotten heat more than several times for coming on this show and speaking about how I feel, but like, let's just call a spade here. Trayvon Diggs, I think, is top 15. If he's top 15, he's 15th. Like 15th. If you're gonna rank 15 guys, it's gonna be he is 15th. And I mean, nothing wrong with that, but it's only his second year. He has room to improve. But right now, all the hype is just completely unwarranted, if you ask me. Right now, anyway.
Honestly, I don't mind that because you're bashing Cowboys, and that makes my day a little bit better. Because
just wait a couple. Just wait like a couple, just 10, 15 minutes. I'll be there. Trust me. Talking all bad about Commander Carson and J.D. McKissick and who's on that roster? I don't even know.
That's about it. I'm just kidding.
That's not good. That's not good if that's your roster.
All right, let's jump to the next squad, which is I think the team that we both believe is going to in the NFC East, which are the Philadelphia Eagles. A team that showed a lot of improvement towards the end of the year. Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders pretty much themselves kept them in the postseason race and got them into the playoffs as that 7th seed. They did get blitzed by Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucs, but that was more of a
winnable game, a game I had them winning going into it, by the way, and I'm not ashamed to say that.
Okay. And they did make a massive splash on draft night, which was acquiring A.J. Brown from Tennessee, who is an absolute baller on the outside. He plays on the inside, plays on the outside. Will pretty much do whatever it takes. Put him up with Devontae Smith. I think Jalen Reagor has kind of showed himself to be a bust, which is so far, and that's unfortunate. But he's also they're under now a number 3 option, which kind of makes it a little.
No, Quez Watkins is a number 3 option. Quez Watkins is going to take that job from him.
Think so?
You
think?
Oh, no, so.
Shot.
Reagor's done. Jalen Reagor's done for.
They take Jordan Davis, defensive tackle out of Georgia.
Who just is a clip of him owning an O-lineman the other day in training camp. It looks crazy.
Freak.
Yeah, it's insane.
Freak.
Good. That's a great acquisition there on draft night.
I'm trying to remember who lined up at the middle for them for a while. Who's still in the DT? Who's
Fletcher Cox?
He is like a bigger version of Fletcher Cox.
Oh, yeah.
He is now going to be like Fletcher Cox 2.0 for Philadelphia.
1,000%. I think he'll be much better. I think he's much more athletic. And like you said, he's bigger, stronger. He's just going to be crazy.
Exactly. So I think
no disrespect to Fletcher Cox, though.
No disrespect. He's a great football player. No, but all right, let's talk Philly. I've been to their Super Bowl parade. I went to their Super Bowl parade. I lost a bet to my buddy Anthony Pacifico. I know he's probably going to be laughing it up as I now admit this, but went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, well,
parade.
I mean, that's the closest you'll ever get to a Super Bowl parade.
No,
going to Phillies.
I knew that was coming out of your mouth.
Maybe Baltimore wins when you can feel a little bit more closer to home because it's across the Beltway.
My God. All right, let's talk. I can't believe you right now. I really can't. All right, Eagles, expectations, go.
I think the expectation is just like Dallas, except maybe they're
playoffs and get a game.
Yeah. I think maybe they're slightly more expected to win the division because of all the leaps and bounds they made from an offensive and defensive standpoint to improve the team and surround Jalen Hurts with more weapons. But yeah, get in the playoffs and win a game is the expectation, I think, and to improve on the win total, more specifically, even if it's by one. Look, double digits, even if it's 10 games, that's a win in my book. Like that is an improvement, obviously, from a record standpoint. But obviously, like maybe you can only grab one game, and that's fine. But as long as we're showing that you're getting better, and as long as Jalen Hurts is getting better, but expectations for the Eagles as a whole is get into the playoffs. I think maybe the Eagles should be slightly more expected to win the division than Dallas because they made more improvements. But make it to the playoffs and win a game, I think, is the expectation. Now, if you match up against Dallas, well, you got yourself a tough spot. It's a coin flip. But I think with Philly, I think the thing that benefits Philly the most is of the teams that I have making the playoffs, which are, again, Tampa Bay, Los Angeles, Green Bay, Philly, of course, Dallas, Minnesota, and New Orleans. Philly plays Dallas twice, obviously. They play Minnesota week 6. They play Green Bay week 16. So we could see that that's actually not even their schedule. Wrong one. Sorry. They play Minnesota week 2. Excuse me. They play Dallas twice, obviously. They play Green Bay week 12 and they play New Orleans week 17. So like aside from Los Angeles and Tampa Bay, they have 5 games against playoff teams this season. Those 5 games are not playoff teams from last season, but playoff teams that I think are going to be in the playoffs this season.
Right.
Those are all good games. So win or lose in the regular season, you can at least draw from that and come back into the playoff game if you get that matchup again and get a win. So it works for them.
And I told you, I think for the Eagles, it's more of a make it, break it year to show growth, especially on both sides of the ball. Sure. Yes, the playoffs now are a goal because I think last year was just a rebuild year, and then you somehow sneak in, right? Now the expectation is you better make it, you better show improvement from this 7 seed. And like you said, maybe steal a game and potentially make a run and make it difficult in a divisional round playoff game.
Yep.
But for me, this is a question mark to see about Jalen Hurts. This is Philadelphia has been an organization, especially in recent years, that will pull the towel very quick on their quarterbacks, especially after now winning the Super Bowl with Nick Foles as your quarterback. And it always comes back to that, even though it shouldn't, but it does because Nick Foles pulled off a miracle for that organization when everyone thought it was dire when Carson went down against the Rams, right?
Yeah.
And then now Carson got pulled and everyone's questioning, the team rallies around Josh McCown, rallies around Nick Foles. Carson Wentz is now gone. He's now in Washington. You have now the same thing can be said about Jalen Hurts. How fast do you pull the plug on a starter now? Because stop laughing.
That's a terrible acquisition in free agency. Jeez.
But
Commander Carson, really? It's the best you could do. I'd much rather see a Baker Mayfield worn Commander's jersey than a Carson Wentz one. Just saying. That's terrible. It's okay. I'll wait. We've got a couple more minutes. I'll wait. That's a terrible acquisition. That's disgustingly bad.
They arguably got the best linebacker in this class with Nakobe Dean falling into the third round.
They did.
Like what?
And we should have had Nakobe Dean, but Green Bay is concerned about
12th grade, and he fell to the third round.
Yeah. Well, Green Bay was concerned about shoulder surgery, as if that's going to stop Nakobe Dean from being a great football player. Go.
Don't get him started on his Packers.
Ugh.
But I think for Philadelphia, show the growth. See what Nick Sirianni can actually do in year 2 as a head coach, and use the same formula you used last year. Be a ground and pound team. Rely on your defense, who was extremely solid last year, and then get the ball to your playmakers and Miles Sanders. Allow Jalen Hurts to roll out. Get the ball to Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. Don't forget, they still have Dallas Goedert, who is still one of the better receiving tight ends in football. But
top 10 tight end in football.
Oh, without question. And I think that was just covered up because they had arguably potentially 2 top 10 tight ends in football with Zach Ertz on the other side. So there's a lot to see in Philadelphia. There's a lot to be passionate about, but that's the one thing that I'm concerned about in Philly. How big of a leash are you going to give Jalen? Because his accuracy is the question mark, right?
Of course.
He wasn't that accurate last year. He hovered around 60%. And how long?
Which, I mean, for a quarterback in what was technically his first season isn't bad, but you do want to see an improvement on that number from 60%. You'd like to see that. I'd like to see him complete 65% of his passes this season.
Yeah, 60. Yeah, I think that's what you want, 65%.
Yeah.
So that'll be the biggest intriguing part to me. I do have them as the favorites to win and my pick to win the NFC East because no one wins it 2 years in a row. And I think Dallas will take a step back because of not what they lost, but because of what Philadelphia did to improve, like you said. So all these acquisitions and moves that Philly just made a 9-8 team, easily probably 2 wins better. That's where I have them right now at 11. But I think that's going to be a good standard to see in regards to Philadelphia.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I am going to just let Marcus go for a little bit and I'm probably going to end up turning off my screen at some point to go cover up my tears. We are now on the Washington Commanders, a team that finished 3rd in the division. We'll see how it comes with bringing back Chase Young. We acquired Jahan Dotson and, like Marcus said, the Commander Carson. When we could have goddamn Matt Ryan for less, but he probably did not want to come to Washington, and I don't blame him. So this is Carson's pretty much last chance, I think, as a starting quarterback for him. His pretty much has become his proven career, and he's going to an organization that has no idea what they're flipping doing. Marcus, the floor is yours.
You gotta ask me a question here, man. I can't fly blind. I need a question here. What's the question? What are the expectations for the Washington Commanders? I'm so glad you asked. The Washington Commanders would be lucky to win, let's be honest, 5 games this season.
What?
I mean, hey. Listen. Hey. Listen, I have the Washington Commanders at exactly 5 wins. The Commanders I have starting the season 0-5.
You have us losing to Jacksonville and Detroit in those first
I absolutely have Washington losing in Jacksonville week 1 and then taking a trip up to Detroit and losing in Ford Field to the Detroit Lions. You bet your bottom dollar I do. Then I got you coming home, losing to Philly. Got you going to Dallas, taking that L. Got you coming back home to Tennessee, taking that L. Your first win of the season is against the Chicago Bears. And that's only because I have the Chicago Bears going 1-16 this season because they're going to stink. Then they're going to come back home to Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers is going to spank Green Bay. You're going to go to Indianapolis to catch an L there, come back home to Minnesota, catch an L there, go to Philly, catch an L. Then you've got a nice stretch at Houston versus Atlanta, at New York. Those 3, I think, will be wins. So You do have a nice little 3-game win streak heading into the bye. You come out of the bye to see New York again in your house, and that's the last win of the season because you'll go to San Francisco and lose. You'll go to Cleveland. You'll host Cleveland and lose. And then, as always, the Dallas Cowboys will come back here to D.C. with the division on the line between them and the Eagles, and you will lose because the Washington Commanders suck. They absolutely stink. 5 wins is the ceiling. You'll be lucky to get 6, maybe 7 if you can beat Jacksonville or Detroit. But here's the thing. You're not better than Jacksonville. You're not better than Detroit, which is unfortunate because both of those teams suck, and they picked 1 and 2 in the draft last season. So Commander Carson will suck. Terry McLaurin should not have signed that extension. He should have got out of Dodge. Don't pass go. Don't collect $200. Just get out of town because Terry McLaurin is going to rot for the next 3 years in Washington. You drafted Sam Howell after you traded for Carson Wentz. I expect to see Sam Howell play football this season. I do. I expect to see those are my expectations. I expect to see Sam Howell start a football game in the regular season, not the preseason, in the regular season for the Washington Commanders. That's how bad I think Carson Wentz is going to play football this season. And the icing on the top, Antonio Gibson, he'll be okay, but J.D. McKissic stinks. The D-line should get better, but it probably won't, because here's a fun fact that most Washington Commanders fans don't want to acknowledge. The D-line and the defense as a whole actually got better. They actually got better when Chase Young went down with injury, which is absurd to think that your best player on defense gets hurt and the defense gets better. That's not
the stats.
good.
We're better without
Secondary suck. I'm sorry.
You're right. Our statistically,
I know. Statistically, this defense got better. What happened to that nasty red zone defense that propelled you to a whopping 7 wins 2 years ago and got you the playoff spot? What happened to that defense? Gone. Defense gone. Defense stinks. Secondary is terrible. They struggled so much in the red zone, which is where we all expected them to excel. I'm on record as, look, I will take my losses and I'll take my bites on this one, right? I did come on my show a couple months before the season. I did say that you shouldn't be surprised if the Commanders somehow stumble into the Super Bowl because they had a really good defense and because the offense seemed like it was getting together under Ryan Fitzpatrick / Taylor Heineke. Look, that's not going to happen this season. 5 wins is the cap. Maybe 6 if you can beat Detroit, or because you're not going to beat Jacksonville. I think that's definitely an L.
Okay. Find my emotions. Find your inner zen. All right. For my lovely Commanders or football team or Redskins, I will still refer to them as the final term because that's how I grew up, and I think the Commander's name stinks. But here we go. That's here nor there. How are we going to look? I think Marcus was pretty mean about how he articulated his words toward me, but I think
it's all the truth.
So. I think they were valid. I had us at 6 wins. I had us splitting one of those Jacksonville Detroit games, so that still puts us at 6. So, I think this is going to be it for Carson Wentz. I think this is his last shot. He's, and like you said, I didn't think Sam Howell would get a start. I think we'll see plenty of Taylor Heineke at some point this year, though. Especially, and the one thing that the issue has become with the 17-game season, our bye weeks, the last week of the last possible bye week, week 14, right? Is it 13 or 14? Something like that. The whole team 14. Will be beat down.
Yeah, it's the last possible bye week of the season.
So I think that's why he thinks Sam Howell's going to play, because by week 14 everyone will be injured. So
no, I think Sam Howell's going to play because by week 8 Carson Wentz is going to suck so bad you're not going to have a choice.
Well, that's fine. I already had us going like 1-6 to start, so it's perfectly fine.
That's a little bit too generous. Okay, you're starting the season 1-9. Okay, we'll see Sam Howell.
We're gonna beat one of those teams.
Okay.
I said, what do you think? When do you think Carson will get benched? Then? By week 8, do you think he'll put Taylor Heineke's the backup? You think Sam Howell will play before Heineke does this year?
Listen, let's be honest. Carson Wentz is going to stink up the joint in Indianapolis against the Colts, and that's going to be the last game of the season.
It's going to be on an episode with
Carson Wentz is going to throw 15 interceptions this season.
Venting about where my Matt Ryan is.
Carson Wentz is going to throw 15 picks this season.
And how many games is he going to play? 10?
He'll play 8 games, I think.
So you have him averaging almost 2 picks a game.
This is Carson Wentz we're talking about here.
I-
This is Carson Wentz we're talking about.
That's been my issue with Carson Wentz, is that if you actually watch the game film from Indianapolis last year, even though
No, Carson
he easily
Carson might play 13 games. They might let him ride it out until the bye and then sit him down and send him home somewhere. Just tell him not to come back. Just pay him to stay away. So he'll get 15 picks in 13 weeks. Barely touch 20 touchdowns if he does.
I don't think he'll reach 20.
I think he'll be 10
All
and
I'm
15.
banking on is that Jahan Dotson and Taylor McLaurin are just going to be a pretty solid duo at the wide receiver.
Well, they can't be pretty solid if their quarterback sucks. So
that was going to be my caveat. That is, if Carson Wentz can be competent and smart at the quarterback position, we have.
Yeah, that's like.
So.
Yeah, well, that's not gonna happen. So.
But 6 wins. The real issue for us was the secondary, and that's been our biggest issue ever.
Hey, and also, by the way, if we're just being honest,
we didn't sign anybody for our secondary.
I could actually see you guys losing to Houston, Atlanta, or New York in that 4-game stretch. So maybe it's going to be
Don't
4
do
games.
me like that. Come on now.
I mean, let's just be serious. If Saquon Barkley is healthy, the New York Giants could be a tough out for the Washington Commanders anyway. And, Davis Mills usually has.
Danny Dimes isn't the answer. Don't be like that.
They've got Saquon Barkley. They have a solid offensive line. They got the defense to be a little bit better.
No.
I think Danny Dimes over Carson Wentz.
I think we're gonna.
I take Daniel Jones over Carson Wentz. That's not
we
valid.
beat Dallas when we stink every year. Dallas has that bad game, and everyone's in panic mode, thinking that they stink, which they usually do. That in respect to the other top teams, but
look at the pot calling the kettle black here. Look at that. Listen, I take Daniel Jones over Carson Wentz, especially this season. That's all that matters.
What?
Yeah.
No, all right. That's where I draw the line with your.
Yeah. 100% take Daniel Jones over Carson Wentz.
Is the worst quarterback. Arguably, he's going to get one of the 4 worst quarterbacks in football this year.
No, he won't.
I don't think Daniel
won't.
Take it out.
No, he won't. No, he won't. The four worst quarterbacks in football this season will be Trey Lance, Justin Fields.
Why would Trey Lance be one of the 4 worst teams when we have San Francisco in the playoffs?
I don't have San Francisco. Who said I had San Francisco in the playoffs? I never said that.
You did.
Anything like that? No.
Playoffs.
You have San Francisco. You're crazy. You're a lunatic. You're even more crazy than I thought you were. Listen, the 4 worst quarterbacks in football are going to be Davis Mills, Drew Lock, or Geno Smith, whoever the Seahawks start there. Your beloved Carson Wentz, and whoever the Falcons start. Those will be the 4 worst quarterbacks in football, with Justin Fields and Trey Lance being right there at 5 and 6. You don't think so? I'm talking from a statistical standpoint here, not from a record standpoint. I mean, these are all really bad teams, so you can't base them off a record. From a statistical standpoint, Carson Wentz is going to stink, and I think Daniel Jones will have a better statistical season this season than Carson Wentz. And I'm willing to. I'd bet you every dollar I have that Daniel Jones has a better statistical season than Carson Wentz this year. Primarily because if he doesn't get hurt, he'll play more games than Carson Wentz this season because Washington's going to be sick of Carson Wentz after week 14. I'm not really gonna bet you every dollar I have. I'm saving for important things down the line. But I
was just gonna hold my hand up if you're ready.
Look, I'll come on your show with a Carson Wentz jersey on if Carson Wentz has a better season this season.
And then what do I have to wear on your show if Daniel Jones has a better season?
We'll figure it out.
Figure it out.
But
I agree to those.
I'll shake your hand on that. Carson Wentz is gonna suck this year, and I'm gonna love watching.
I know he's gonna stink, but he ain't gonna be as bad as Danny Dimes.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay, I'm just holding out hope. Okay,
there's no hope to hold on to, dude.
Why?
There's no hope to hold on because he's not good at the quarterback position.
I'm not talking about Carson anymore. I have lost hope for Carson. There's no hope there. I'm talking.
So then why are you trying to tell me that Carson's gonna have a better season than Daniel Jones if you lost hope?
He's an absolute bona fide scrub and only got drafted in the top 10 because he was affiliated with Peyton Manning.
Daniel Jones has a coach that believes in him. And Brian Dable.
All right, let's jump to the Giants because we're already there.
He has a better offensive line. He has a better running back.
I think you could. All right, that's all the
No. Saquon healthy washes Antonio Gibson every day of the week.
The issue is Saquon Barkley can't stay on the field, so
that's fine. But when he's on the field and he washes Antonio Gibson every day of the week and twice on Sunday, which is when it really matters.
All right, we've got a better wide receiving core than New York does.
Yeah, by like a smidgen. That's not true. Actually, no. I do like your trio you have out there, but they're not going to look that good because the quarterback sucks.
But we don't have a quarterback, so.
I think Daniel Jones does better.
I think catch a receiving touchdown last year, and he got made so much millions of dollars.
I think Daniel Jones throws more yards with Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel than Carson Wentz would this season. Absolutely, I absolutely do. Daniel Jones is better than Carson Wentz right now.
Do you think the Giants will finish better than Washington will then?
No.
Then where's your argument?
We're comparing we're comparing players. We're not comparing teams. Washington has the better team by a bit, but the Giants. I have the Giants. Actually, I also have the Giants winning 5 games. So it is possible that we could see the New York Giants win more games this season than the Washington Commanders, if we're being honest. I have the Giants. I'll run you down. I have the Giants I have the Giants beating Chicago also. It's Chicago.
I think everyone's beating Chicago this year.
Except for one team. Who's the one team I have losing to Chicago? Atlanta. Makes sense. Yeah, because I have Atlanta going 0-17. Whatever.
You have Atlanta not winning a game?
Not a game. So the Giants, I think
2 weeks ago that you thought Chicago was going to be the worst team in football, but now you've already changed your mind.
Well, that's before I realized that Chicago and Atlanta play each other and something has to give. The Giants are going to beat Chicago in week 4. They'll beat Houston in week 10. Oh, wait, no. Yikes, I have the Giants going 2-15. I read my schedule wrong. Never mind.
Oh, I'm still winning this bet.
I have the Giants going 2-15. But that doesn't mean I don't think Daniel Jones is going to have a better season, though.
Statistically speaking, right.
Yeah, from a statistical standpoint. I think he'll throw for – I think Daniel Jones will have – yeah, I think he'll have a better statistical season than Carson Wentz.
Well, because the Giants went 4-13 last year, so you're telling me they're going to have 2 less wins?
I also made my prediction. I also made that
supposed to be an offensive guru for.
I also made that prediction under the assumption that Saquon wouldn't be healthy. I made that prediction a while ago. So I have to change it a bit. If Saquon healthy, the Giants will win at least 5 or 6 games this season, which puts them right there with Washington.
Right.
But Washington's going to suck regardless because they're a bad football team with a bad owner. I'm not going to disrespect Ron Rivera because you just won his battle with cancer, and I love Ron Rivera as a man and as a human being, but he's the only good thing going in Washington right now, and Terry McLaurin, of course, and I guess Chase Young. So he's one of 3 good things going in Washington right now.
So 2 players and a coach. That's it.
2 players and a coach. That's all you got. Yep.
All right. I can't argue honestly with that statement.
No, it's a fact. I haven't said anything that's not true. I've yet to say one untrue thing for the last hour.
On to any hope, and you are ripping my heart out.
Because that's your problem. That's all Washington Commanders fans' problem. You think there's hope. There's no hope. This team stinks from top to bottom. This team sucks. This 53-man roster is terrible. These people in training camp would rather shuck and jive than play football. The Washington Commanders are the epitome of trash. We're going to be a dumpster fire this season from top to bottom. It's going to start with Carson Wentz. It's going to spread throughout the course of the organization and the football team because the Commanders suck. And you know how I know that the Commanders suck? Because instead of not wearing a jersey, you're so committed to this terrible team that you're wearing a Donovan McNabb Washington Redskins jersey. That is unacceptable. And as a Commanders fan, you yourself should be ashamed. And you should also recognize the irony of the fact that Donovan McNabb once played for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's not good. It's not good.
Hey, my mom loved me, and I asked for a jersey, and this is what she got.
I'd respect you a bit more if you were wearing like a Santana Moss jersey or a London Fletcher jersey. You're wearing a Donovan McNabb jersey. A guy who lost his job to Rex Grossman.
Rex Grossman took the Bears to a Super Bowl.
I don't care what he did. Rex Grossman sucked in Washington.
Yeah.
It's just not good. 5 games is the max.
All right, Giants. So we have them going with 2 wins. Talk to me about these 2 studs that they drafted 5 and 7 to try and give these fans hope with Thibodeau and Neal.
The defense gets better, the offensive line gets better, and if Saquon Barkley stays healthy, Saquon Barkley could push 1,200 yards rushing, 1,500 all purpose.
I agree with that. I think
which is why
if
Saquon Barkley is healthy, the Giants could win 6 games this season.
Be either way, because both players were going to be at 5 or at 7. So
they were going to get Kayvon Thibodeau. Yeah, they were going to get Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal either way. Yeah.
Right.
Saquon healthy, a healthy Saquon Barkley. Here, I'll run it down right now for you.
Yeah. Give me
a healthy
Saquon Barkley, and what do you want to see from Dable for this squad?
A healthy Saquon Barkley, I think, puts the Giants
2 more wins, 3 more wins.
I think a healthy Saquon Barkley gives the Giants 3 more wins. I think a healthy Saquon Barkley gives the Giants a win.
Win against us?
Against Seattle. I think it gives them a win. I think a healthy Saquon Barkley gets 2 wins against Washington, which puts Washington down to 3 wins. That's not me trolling. That's me being honest, because Washington can't stop the run to save their lives. So healthy Saquon Barkley for those 2 games instantly put the Giants at 4 wins, not to mention the fact that they could beat the Carolina Panthers with a healthy Saquon Barkley. They could beat the Seattle Seahawks with a healthy Saquon Barkley. They could beat the Jaguars and the Detroit Lions with a healthy Saquon Barkley. So let's say we give them those 4 wins as well. We're talking about an 8-win Giants team. I don't think they'll win 8 games. I don't. Realistically, I think the Giants with a healthy Saquon Barkley win 6 games, maybe 7. I can say that confidently because the last time Saquon Barkley played a full healthy season.
And so, as have been pushing.
Yeah, well, you're a hater and you're holding out hope for your lowly Washington Commanders.
Fans, so I want to make sure.
Yeah, well, they're on the right side of history here. Let's just call a spade a spade. The last time Saquon Barkley played a healthy or close to healthy, a full or close to full season was 2019. It's actually crazy to think he played 13 games last year.
He played 13 games?
Yep.
That didn't feel like it.
It didn't feel like it, no. So in 2019, let's look at the Giants' record in 2019. 2019, I think the Giants won 6 games. In the 2019-2020 season, the Giants won 4 games. In his rookie season, the Giants won 5 games. So it's possible that a healthy Saquon Barkley gets this team to at least 5 wins.
Well, I have them getting 4, so that's probably.
Well, I have your team getting 0. So.
Oh, so you just keep dropping down the numbers.
I mean, the more I think about it, the more I realize just how bad Carson Wentz is as a quarterback. I don't make the rules, man. You sent the invite. I'm giving you my expert opinion.
Let's be honest. Even if I didn't give you the invite, you would have found a way to get on this bloody show for a second.
No, I'm not a terrorist. That's terrorist activity. I'm not a terrorist. The Washington Commanders are terrorists. You know, if you want to leak information from someone, you don't have to waterboard them or take them to a black site. Just turn on command. Just strap them to a chair, hold their eyes open, and make them watch Commanders football. They'll tell you anything you need to know. That is the ultimate form of torture. That is advanced interrogation. It's subjecting any human being to watching the Washington Commanders play football. Actually, no. Show them Carson Wentz's lowlights. That is how you get someone. That's how you get someone to talk. Just show them the lowlights.
I can agree with that. I can't disagree with that part. All right, this is the last question I had for you, Marcus.
Carson Wentz has more lowlights than he does highlights in his career, by the way. That's your quarterback. That's your starting quarterback. Just thought I should point that out there to the viewers.
Appreciate you, and we're taking all this.
Of course.
Absolutely ridiculous. So.
I mean, look, it is what it is. You knew what you were signing up for. You didn't have to send me the text message and ask me to come on the show. You could have said no. You could have just swallowed it and
But then
figured
it
it
would
out.
just been me crying for 45 minutes. So I didn't.
And well, who's to, well? You're gonna cry when we get off the show anyway. So I mean, the tears are gonna flow.
Cool. I didn't want to have my fan base make me look like I'm already bigger a wimp than I already am. Emotional person.
You're a Washington Commanders fan. It's the
What do you
wimpiest
think
of
I'm
them
a
all.
Notre Dame fan, man? I gotta balance.
That's not that much. That's really not that much better.
Gosh, all right. Leave it alone. All right, is the NFC East still the worst division of football, or is it?
No, it's the AFC South. By the skin of their teeth. But when Jacksonville gets better, which is happening in the next 2 seasons, it'll go back to being the NFC East. The Washington Commanders actually might be bringing up the caboose in the NFC East for the next couple of seasons. Because it only goes up from here for the Giants, the Eagles, and the Cowboys.
Pretty much last 20 years anyway. So
yeah, well, get ready to be back right in the back, picking at the top of the draft for the next 20 years again.
That's fine. And Dan Snyder will take a quarterback, and we don't need a quarterback, and we'll start the whole.
Okay, and you'll suck, and you'll win 10 games combined the next 20 seasons.
All right, relax there, guy. All right, we don't need your hyperbolic.
I think it's pretty realistic.
Statements of that we're going to win. Like we're going to win one game every year for the next 20. So,
how many games are the Washington Commanders going to be favored to win this season?
4.
How many? 4. And what are those 4 games? Do you think?
I think we'll get probably the Detroit game as a favorite.
Which game is a favorite? You won't be favored against Detroit. You will not be favored against Detroit in Detroit. No, I don't.
Favored against Atlanta. We'll be favored against Chicago.
I don't know if you'll be. Well, okay. I guess I'll give you Atlanta. Yeah.
Atlanta.
I'll give you Atlanta and Chicago. Sure, that's 2 games there.
It'll be one of the Giants games, and it'll be it'll be Jacksonville and Detroit.
I just told you the Giants are going to win more games than you guys this season. You're not going to be favored against the Giants.
Favored in one of those games. I think they'll be favored. We'll be favored at home. They'll be favored at home.
No.
Yes.
False. Categorically false.
Oh my God. But yeah, I agree.
5 wins. If you're lucky, 5 wins. And if Saquon's healthy, that number drops to 3.
So I've got the Eagles going 11-6. Is that what you have?
The Eagles going 12-5.
12-5. I have Dallas going 10-7. What do you have?
11-6.
Wow, you're being really generous to these guys. Washington, I have 6 wins.
You're insane.
6-11.
You're insane, dude.
6-11. You know, if we get really hot, maybe push 8-9.
You're absurdly insane. You are actually insane. Clinically. Insane. That's terrible. That's terrible record predicting.
You gotta be a homer for your squad. You know?
No, you don't. You have to be realistic with your squad. I spent 30 minutes yelling down Justin Marvel about that for that exact same reason. Just trying to just blind faith and support when it's not warranted.
Down to 5. You happy?
Hey, look, stick to your guns and hold to 6. I respect it a little bit more if you stuck to your guns.
What's the over-under for? I need to check our sports betting.
Here, I'll pull it up right now. What's the
Washington right now?
What's the over-under for the Washington Commanders win totals?
Cool.
It's like 7, which is absurd, actually, I think.
If it's 7,
highly unrealistic.
Over-under on what? Because we do have the easiest schedule in football.
You know who else has the easiest schedule in football? Every other team in the division, because you have 10 games into the 2 worst divisions in the league.
Yeah, because we played the South this year, right?
Dumpster organization, dude.
Hey.
The Washington Commanders over-under for this season is 7.5.
Oh my God.
Which is insanely high.
I have to run to the casino because you go bet at casinos in Washington. Pound will be under, please. So that'll be my.
There's some places that's crazy.
Some are pushing 8.
There's some places that have the Commanders at 8.
Yo,
what's wrong with you guys? This team's not good.
As someone who occasionally sports bets, I have this proposition of always betting the over. Ladies and gentlemen, this is when you bet the under, like no tomorrow.
This team is terrible. Okay, so DraftKings has them at 8.
Yeah.
FanDuel has them at 8.5. PointsBet has them at 7.5. So does BetMGM. What is this? Players Sugar House has them at 8.5. Unibet has them at 8.5. Those are the most unreliable sources ever. 8.5 wins for the Washington Commanders.
Don't bet the under on the Washington Commanders
Washington Commanders are going to suck this season. They're going to be one of the worst teams in football. They're going to be picking in the top 10 again.
I know.
I'm going to love every second of it.
Marcus, as always, I
want to come on this show after you guys get spanked by Aaron Rodgers when he drops 350 and 4.
That's fine. We'll hold a very special episode, and you can just go point and laugh it up and enjoy yourself after I lose by 30. And while I just put my Don McNabb jersey back on just to make myself feel a little bit better. Yeah, no, really won't, but it's fine. But this was at the NFC East, or at least, however you want to look at it. We looked at Dallas, Philly, New York, and
dumpster division.
Those lovely Washington Commanders that Marcus loves
dumpster organization
so much. Marcus, plug yourself, my guy. Always a pleasure to have you on. What is going on with you next?
If you want to follow a fan of a real sports team that's actually going to win games and be good, you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at GTP Marcus. I'm a Packers fan. We're going to spank the Commanders. We're going to spank not everybody, but we're definitely going to spank the Commanders, and I can't wait for it. We're going to sweep the NFC East this season, actually. It's going to be lovely. We're going to beat the Giants in London. We're going to beat Dallas at home, beat Philly in Philly, beat Washington, and Washington's going to be spectacular. We're going to go on. We're going to win 12 games and then lose in the playoffs. Which game?
The Packers-Washington game.
I will not be caught dead in FedEx Field. Sorry.
Even though you're a Packers fan, and they're right
there. That's why would I subject myself?
Because you'll get the ticket like $15.
Yeah, that's great. And then the stadium will collapse on itself, and I'll die. I'll sit on the comfort of my couch, and I'll watch Aaron Rodgers cook your defense from the comfort of my own home in my undies.
Text from you. Oh, that's another one. That's another one.
As long as you know it's coming, dude. That's all that matters. In fact, what I'll do is I'll take a picture of me in an Aaron Rodgers jersey. I'll take a selfie just pointing to the TV with my thumbs up at the end of every quarter so that you can after every score so that you can get my live reaction to the beatdown that we're going to administer to your Washington Commanders. What week is that? Actually, let me bookmark that. Let me set a reminder for myself. Week 7. Oh yeah, that's gonna be a good day. That's gonna be a great day.
What day is that?
I believe that's let's see. Packers versus Commanders 2022. It's October 23rd. It's gonna be a very spooky Halloween for you guys. Yeah. Ooh.
Well, everyone, this was a very depressing episode for me.
Glad I could be of some assistance there.
Marcus, appreciate you as always making my life so much more miserable when it comes to my Washington Commanders.
That's what I'm here for.
If you guys haven't already, please go follow my guy at G.O.A.T. He's trying to get himself up to 150 subscribers. What are you at now? 127 still, or are we still moving up?
Yeah, 127.
127. He's trying to get to 150 by the end of the year. Go hit that subscribe button. Go follow him. He's got great content. He's a lot more cordial when I'm on his show, because when he comes on my show, he's just here to destroy me and make my life.
Yeah, because every time you have me on the show, you want to talk about the Commanders. So that's like, yeah.
No, we didn't talk Commanders when you came up with the NFC North episode.
No, it's different. I had to destroy Justin that show.
Right. Well, everyone, that was another edition of the Final Whistle Sports Podcast. That is the end of the NFC. The AFC will be starting up soon. Be on the lookout for those episodes. And as always, subscribe, follow, leave us a review. Trying my best out here, trying to stay as non-fan base as possible. But, when it comes to your Washington Commanders and my Don McNabb, always got to be a homer in that regard.
That's embarrassing that you're wearing a Donovan McNabb jersey right now.
You know what? When we beat the Packers this year, it's going to be a great sight to see.
That's never happening.
Anyway, everyone, enjoy the rest of your day. As always, this is Blaine Spencer signing off.